You know, there's a little bit of backstory to that first reading from the book of Jonah, and you probably know it, but Jonah initially didn't want to do what God wanted him to do, and he ran away, and then that whole episode of the big fish, you know, that fish story there. But when was the last time you wanted to run away? Chances are it was because you wanted to escape something, a situation, a person, a problem. Imagine Jonah trying to run away from God because he wanted to escape what God called him to do. The last thing Jonah wanted was to go to Nineveh and to have them change. The reading from Jonah and the Gospel from Mark are both about being called, being asked to do something, and our responses which run the gamut from refusal to reluctant acquiescence to total surrender. God's call in our life is about the unsettling reality of change. Real, soul-searching change that shakes up our lives. Jonah is like most of us, reluctant. In fact, we run away from it. So why is it that people like those in Nineveh changed, repented? Why is it that Simon and Andrew abandoned their livelihood to follow Jesus? Why were James and John able to leave their father and fortune to join Jesus? This is a central question for each one of us. What does it take for us to say yes to God? I think that the answer can be found in the preaching of Jonah and Jesus. Both of them called for change, real change, something core to who we really want to be. In the second reading from Paul, he too calls for change. Change in the way we live, turning upside down the way we think about things, living as if things that preoccupy us don't. Meister Eckhart talked about this as living without a why, is not allowing our possessions to possess us. Simon and Andrew, James and John did something that made no sense. They followed Jesus. The people of Nineveh did something that Jonah couldn't explain. They repented. Sometimes we encounter that solid footing where we briefly glimpse what our lives are meant to be. These moments aren't long-lasting, more like a flash of lightning in the storm. But they help us to see life clearly. It defies explanation, the whys we want to answer. This kind of discovery, this kind of personal awareness is something I fear the present world is losing. Secular culture has tricked us into thinking these moments are trivial, best ignored, keeping us from the very thing that most completes us. These 4 fishermen didn't tell the preacher from Galilee to go away, to leave them alone so they could take care of their business. No, they heard him. They were called and willingly set out. Even though Jonah initially tried to run away, he was forced to face his own refusal. And in that confrontation, he found his truest self, his mission to call forth conversion. It was the people of Nineveh who wanted to hear someone with enough courage to call forth social change, the conversion of a nation. In 1964, the 23-year-old Bob Dylan, who is now 74, released his most famous work, capturing the spirit of social and political upheaval. It is a timeless ballad that echoes our own age and what St. Paul wrote about to the Corinthians. For the world in its present form is passing away. Come, senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall. For he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. There's a battle outside, and it is raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your walls. For the times, they are a-changing. My generation thought it was destined to save the world. But we can all see how that turned out. Salvation is never our doing. It comes only from the hand of God. Each person must hear the call. When we were young, it was all too easy to blame everyone who went before us. I wonder if my generation may still be about blame. We focused on change, the collapse of the old order, but we didn't hear the call to conversion in us. Today's readings are a lesson to us all. Change must be ordered to an end, to what is good, what is life-giving, what is holy. John Cardinal Newman once said, "Here below, to live is to change, and to be perfect is to have changed often." Christ calls to each one of us, to young and old. And this call is a new reality, a moment of change, for letting go of the false and burdensome self and heeding his gentle call. Come walk with me.